The following is an Operation Podcast production.
Every single one of us has a personal brand, and it's what people perceive of us. It's what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And we have this ability with social media, with having a digital footprint, to, yes, control what people see of us and perceive of us. So whatever we put out is what people perceive. Whatever we don't put out is what they just don't know about you. And so building your personal brand, whether you're a doctor or if you're someone that's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't really know what I want to do. It's so important because I don't know in your life when something new is going to come out of you, a new business is going to be birthed, or a new thing's going to happen. And your personal brand is like your built-in network that's free. 74% of people nowadays, they look at your personal brand before they look to you, even if you're a doctor. So this is huge. I don't know why people are sleeping on personal brand. And it was so funny. This is too much, but here we go. Hey there, it's Emily Ford, and I am at Ever Forward. I was asked so many questions I have never been asked. You're gonna truly be moved by it.
I'm going to have you rank these public speakers in terms of their personal branding from 1 to 5 without knowing who comes next. You ready?
Okay, so 1 is the best or 5?
Yeah, so number 1 being the best, 5 being not the best.
Okay.
Or just in that order, okay?
Okay.
All right, so first up, Andrew Tate. Are you familiar with him?
Of course. So I'm not a fan at all, but he does well with his brand.
Interesting take. Okay, so where would you put him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
2.
2? Okay,
Yeah.
wow, pretty strong.
But I don't believe in his brand, but he does well with his brand.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Steve Jobs.
Oh, 1.
1?
Yeah.
Okay. Barack Obama.
Oh, he's so good. 1.
1?
Incredible speaker.
So he's bumping Steve Jobs?
Yeah. Okay, we'll push Tate to 3, Brock to 2, and then Steve Jobs to 1.
Okay, next up, Joe Biden.
Oh, shit. 5. Yeah.
Last one, Tony Robbins.
Oh, I would put Andrew Tate to 5.
Let's go 5 up. So Tate is number 5. Who's number 4?
Biden's 4.
3. Tony Robbins, Barack, or Andrew Tate, or excuse me.
Let's do Brock, Tony 2, and then
Steve Jobs, number 1.
Jobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a bad list.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you gave Steve Jobs the number 1 spot for somebody that is no longer with us.
Legacy.
So RIP.
Dude, legacy. He crushed his personal brand and he made it bigger than himself. It's so inspiring.
Should that be the ultimate goal with a personal brand, to be able to no longer be alive and still make the top of the list for a branding expert's personal brand hierarchy?
Depends on what your values are.
Ooh, okay. What do you mean by that?
So if your value is truly to impact and be in service of the lives of others, if that's your value, then I believe your brand should be out to serve others and eventually be bigger than yourself. And you're the genesis of it, but it should go on above and beyond you, which Tony Robbins, he's doing. I mean, all these guys to an extent. I think Andrew Tate is very self-absorbed. So that's why I'd put him at 5.
It's interesting that you still feel so strongly about Steve Jobs and you're talking about, serving others. But a lot of people in Apple and friends and colleagues, have said in his book and documentaries, he was really not the most pleasant person to be around. Some people call it, being a maniac. Some people call it being a genius entrepreneur. How do you kind of differentiate someone who is acting out of service and someone that is ego-driven but still serves people?
That's so good. I think we have to understand that everybody is having a different human experience. They have different gifting on them. And some of us, or if you look at Barack Obama, his ability to communicate, he's one of the best up there, But then you look at someone like Steve Jobs and he's intellectually or was on such a different level that he was playing, though, in his strength zone, the madness of genius. And I think the problem with a lot of people is we want people to be how we want them to be instead of who they actually are. So I think the best people that have the best personal brands, they're operating in their gifting and they're in their zone, and they're mad about getting it done, getting something done.
Yeah.
But when it's coming straight from ego, it's for ourselves. It's me, and you can really tell there's a level of narcissism attached to it, and you can definitely feel that over time. And I think even when I was super young and I got into personal development, I didn't know better. I was 23, like,
who does at 23?
Yeah. I was like reading all these books, sleeping on a mattress on the floor, like a group with a single mom. I knew nothing, no dad, nothing. And so I was reading all this stuff, but the more that I started to learn and get in the business world, I was like, okay, they're not my person. They're a little pretender. This is smoke and mirrors. You could feel that as you grow your emotional intelligence. And so I think certain people that operate from that like ego place, like they kind of get the early, I don't want to say bottom feeders, but maybe
sure.
the people growing like they don't know better. That's who they get.
How do you personally differentiate someone that is operating out of the madness of genius, which I love that term, by the way, and ego and narcissism?
Their motives. Like,
how do we differentiate their motive? How do we get clear on their motives?
You just watch how they operate. If you watch long enough, people tell on themselves. They really do. And motives matter. They absolutely do. And eventually, if it's for yourself, you're going to destroy yourself. You really will. And you'll make decisions that are so bad. And it clearly wasn't for the greater good of humanity. It was for yourself. And it just, the truth always comes out. And, I just think like people, like they leave clues with their life.
Could not agree more. What do you think are some clues you're leaving right now in your life?
I am on a mission to heal and understand myself. I'm constantly going first. I believe in, leadership is your example, going first. And so for me, I learn and then I do it and then I teach it and I pay it forward. And that's always been my jam the last decade. And so it's like, okay, I'm having like this revelation or I'm experiencing this new thing in business. And once I crack the code, I'm like, it's not for me. It's for people. So let me share what I've learned along the way. And there's this deep level of conviction because I've walked through it. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to talk to you about something that I just don't know the answer to, right? I might tell you I'm in the messy middle trying to figure it out, but I'm always just on that pursuit of getting better. And I believe that I have a gift of leadership, and it's so selfish to keep it to myself. And so I'm just trying to help as many people.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I can't knock you for that. I love that answer. Can you answer these next questions in 3 to 5 seconds? Super quick, super succinct. What's the best advice you've ever received?
To live life like you're dying tomorrow.
Ooh. Yeah. That came pretty quickly, so I feel like that probably sticks with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm success-minded and I want to do everything, the right way. And I can be very serious all the time. So that allows me to just like lighten up.
But also memento mori. Right?
Yeah.
Truly. Who's your idol in public speaking?
Oh, definitely Tony Robbins.
I was going to guess.
Yeah. I just love him and respect him so much. And I love how he's all about transformation and vulnerability. And he's just been a real gift to me.
If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Whoa, Jesus. And I think he's definitely
you think Jesus was an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, he was recruiting. Like, he's the best recruiter. I mean,
Jesus was the OG recruiter, all right?
Yeah, I was actually talking in the hot tub the other night with my designer about this. I'm like, what was Jesus like when he was walking the earth? And she's single and looking for the right guy. And it was so funny. This is too much, but here we go. And she was like, don't you think like people would have been like women like attracted to him? Like he's at the well, like saving this prostitute. And I'm like, straight up, like that's the kind of guy I would want. And we're like, oh, so yeah, I just think, that's.
I've never thought about that. Yeah.
Well, leadership.
Such an example.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just fascinated by his leadership.
Mm.
When I got into business, just needing money and Sharky, I had to really learn humility and stuff. And so I was like, well, who's the best person to learn from? I'm like, okay, just like Jesus. There's a book called Just Like Jesus. I'm like, okay, let me read that and like figure out how to be more humble.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to get more into kind of a role faith plays in your work and life later on. But
Yeah.
I love that. Very interesting response. Thank you. What's the worst thing about being a public speaker, you think?
That whatever you do for 60 minutes, that's what people perceive and think of you. And there's so much more to me than just that one message.
So then how do you wrap up who you are and deliver that succinctly in a 60-minute, 30-minute public speaking engagement, but also kind of knowing that you don't want people to only know you or only judge you or only define you for this?
I make sure that in the presentation that there's stories weaved within so they know facets of me. And I'm not speaking from like being a dictator. I'm speaking through, again, my experience and then pushing it back out, placing my highest values on what I'm speaking on, but knowing very well that I'm also only the messenger and this is for them. It's not for me. So in a lot of ways, like even with my recent keynote, Never Be Shaken, I got to like die to myself when I'm doing it because I'm showing a lot of my scars and all that stuff. But it's not for me. I am the messenger. I'm the vessel. And so there's this dance of going with your ego of like, oh, I want to look good and I want to sound good. And then it's like, no, like this is for them to transform. This is for the human soul to evolve. It's not for you. So that's what I always have to remind myself of.
That's great. That's a good reminder. Good
Yeah.
reminder. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question here. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to be like you one day?
You'll never be like me because you're not me, first of all. But I would tell you to get in the game much faster. I have done so many things for free. I am always showing up, trying new things, working harder, staying later. Like that whole mindset is what it really takes to figure out what you're gifted at. That's how doors open up for you. It's like
That's how you create doors?
Yeah. It's
there
like
isn't one?
I always say, like, you see me like the swan going across, but you don't see my little feet paddling underneath the water. It's just the truth. And so it's like, stop thinking you have all this time. People think they have all this time. I'm like, move faster. And just realize if you have that innate feeling of just wanting to build something, you want to do something so much greater with your life, you have to understand that most people don't think like you. So growing up, like, I only had a couple girlfriends, but they understood, like, she's kind of a different breed. And, I was always putting in the time with my mindset, my heart set, my skill set. And I just knew I'm not like the masses at all. And I have to be okay with that.
Actually, I have a quote down from you from another interview I heard exactly talking about that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. I love that part of your story, and I love that personal realization. I think it's an incredible piece of knowledge and a great tool for someone listening, especially in the beginning of their journey, whatever that entrepreneur passion project journey is.
Yeah.
It's a crucial piece of advice.
Yeah.
So we're going to get there. I got you
Yeah.
coming. All right.
Love it.
So you get in an Uber. And the Uber driver is like, hey, what do you do? How do you reply to that? Kind of give us the Uber driver response to the intro of Emily Ford.
Yeah. Well, I get in and I usually ask them, like, how are you? How long have you been doing this? And I love talking to Uber, Lyft people.
Same.
And they're usually like they're an entrepreneur in some way, or they value freedom. So that's why they're doing it.
They're not just a rideshare
Yeah.
driver.
Yeah. Everyone has a story. And like, even lately in the economy, they're like, well, actually, I sell homes, but the real estate market's bad or whatever, And so that's really when I go into, I help transform lives through speaking, and I have a podcast. And that's usually my kind of gateway to them.
So
And then
you lead with, I help transform lives. Mm-hmm. That's a heavy response.
It's heavy. And
how do they reply to that?
They're usually like, well, like what? And I say, with mindset and dealing with trauma. But I also do a lot of skill set as well, teaching how to build your brand. And it kind of just depends on where it's going. Like, I'm so heart driven when I speak, so it's not usually like this candid response, but I always want to leave them with my business card, which is like my podcast or my Instagram.
I do the same thing.
It's genius, because then when they spend 7 or more hours with you, they're going to be like, oh, they feel way more connected, and now you're really changing their life.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I expected nothing less. So is how you started your business the same as how you conduct your business today? And what I mean by that are the same products and services then what you offer now, or is kind of just like the delivery or the back end kind of changed?
It's all changed.
It's all changed.
Yeah.
So how did you start, and where are you now?
So when I started, I was already in this hustler mindset, being raised by a single mom. I had like this really janky website where I taught people how to eat clean. I was competing in Fitness America. It was called essenceofm.com. I was literally, 21. I bought a house in Minneapolis, where I'm from. I had 3 girls live with me to pay the mortgage, and then I made money. So I got it on a short
already. With equity.
Well, I was the youngest of 3, and it's like I had to raise myself pretty much. And so I was already trying things, and I loved health and wellness. And so I was working out at an LA Fitness, like getting ready for my fitness competition. And that's what led me into selling supplements. But it wasn't like I want to sell this one supplement. It was, I want to build teams of people that sell the supplements. And then I want to make money of everything they do.
Well, I think this is a crucial point to point out. So in the beginning of your entrepreneur journey, you were already aware that I don't want to grow this on my own and what I can do. It sounds like you already had this bigger picture of, I need the team. I want to develop a team. I need that as much now as I do later.
Leverage.
That's huge. Most people don't have that.
I needed leverage because I was waking up at 5 a.m. and I had multiple jobs. So I would drive to this plastic surgeon that I worked for, and I learned everything from him. Running a private practice. How do you work with wealthy people? I mean, I came from nothing. So I was like, I don't know money, and like, who are these people? And like, how do I talk to them? And like, so all that street smart stuff I learned from him. How do I sell expensive skincare? All of that. Then I nannied 4 boys on the side that lost their dad. And so I was just straight hustling. And when I saw and learned about leverage, like, how do you have leverage? How do you make money while you sleep? I was like, oh God, I can do that. Like, how do I do more of that? And I read the book Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and that's when the lid was lifted, and I'm like, okay, now it's time to really build teams and create real wealth.
You said you worked with a plastic surgeon that helped you understand how to work with wealthy people. What do you mean by that? What lessons did you learn? How do you work with wealthy people, and why is that different? Why should that be a different mindset or approach to, we'll say, general public, middle class?
I really just learned the skills of customer service, I should say. I mean, I grew up on the farm in a small town in Minnesota.
We have a lot more in common. I grew up on like 200 acres.
Really?
With gardening. I'd say small farm with my grandparents. Yeah, we ate like majority of the food we grew.
Same. Where?
Roanoke, Virginia.
Okay.
Like almost the border of North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, so that's how I grew up, where people didn't have like nice cars and nice. I mean, I grew up with a single mom, and she worked multiple jobs to put me in sports and all the things. And so when it came to getting a job working with this plastic surgeon, the people were different that came in. Like they clearly had money and expectations and blah blah blah. And I didn't know how do I communicate to them, and how do I, go above and beyond. And so that was the best training ground ever.
Did they intimidate you? What was it about just the awareness of that difference for you?
At first I was so intimidated. And it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And I took it on with this, oh my gosh, they're just humans. And this is what I realized. So I started rehabbing major weight loss patients, and then people that, like this one client, her one and only son died in a tragic car accident. And all the stress like literally changed her face. And so he gave her a partial facelift. And so I rehabbed her. I did ultrasound therapy.
Oh, wow.
And so that was when I really realized, oh, they're just humans that have had success. They have money. Like we're all the same, you know?
They still go through problems.
Yeah.
And loss and trauma.
Yeah. And, money is just an amplifier. And so I was just like, oh, okay. Now, but what it allowed me to do, and I think everybody needs to be in customer service at some time in their life. It just allowed me to go above and beyond. And
Go back and say that again, please.
yeah, everybody needs to learn customer service. And I believe everyone needs to go to a third world country, but that's another.
Yes.
Yeah, everyone must and should.
Yeah. No matter what business you're in, I think this is one of the biggest through lines I've realized over the years of running my own businesses is that at the end of the day, hell, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, I am always in the business of customer service. And then the products and services vary from that.
Yes.
Why should someone consider I'm in the business of customer service no matter what business they're in, product they're creating or selling or service they're providing?
You're always going to touch and be with people. You're always going to communicate with people. People remember you for who you are and how you communicate. And I even said that to my husband on the way here about you. I'm like, when I came in, this is your company and you have clients using all your studios that you're expanding. You made an impression on me.
Oh, no way.
I literally told my husband
Thank you.
this. I'm like, he stood out. He went above and beyond to connect with us. I'm like, who is this guy? To the point where I looked you up on Instagram. I'm like, you're an Army vet. Like, and my brother's in the Air Force, and there's so many little connections. I was like, but the point of me even saying this is I didn't understand when I came here that day to do my interview with Michael. I didn't know that you owned this place. I didn't know that you own multiple places. I didn't know that you're a businessman. I didn't know all the layers. I didn't even know you, but I met you and you stood out. But you were so kind. You went above and beyond, to the point where people follow people. And I told my husband, Jake, I was like, I just wanted to know who Chase was. I'm like, who is this guy? Because you stood out. And I think that's what people forget. Like, no matter if it's a phone call, an email correspondence, an IG DM, whatever, like, you are a person and people connect to people. And wherever you go, you take yourself with you, So be memorable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really received that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that's your strength. And it's so wild because sometimes there's that thing that we have that you have that it's innate to us. So we're like, what do you mean? And then someone's like, no, that's your special sauce. Like, you got to tap more into that. You got to amplify that and drive the line and go deep instead of wide. Which I feel like in business, so many people are like, there's so many opportunities. It's like, no, zone in and drive the thing and build the thing. And then the one thing goes to multiple streams of income instead of, people have it so backwards where they're like multiple streams of income. I'm like, no, you got to build the one thing first. That's your cash cow. And then you can, anyways, I digress. But
I want to share something else with you. I want to get your take on this. One thing that really helped me kind of realize that my secret sauce was actually through unraveling or diving deep into childhood trauma. And I was going back to probably my first memory ever. I was trying to think, what is the very first thing I remember? What is, like, as a child, as a young boy, whatever. And there were two. One was a funny story regarding a blanket, and the day my brother was born, they ran out of like cloths to swaddle babies in the hospital, go figure. And so they actually took my blanket, my favorite blanket, and used to wrap him up, which I think was the beginning of like the brother rivalry. I was like, who is this kid stealing my blanket? I hate him already.
Yeah.
I don't hate Max, by the way. And then the other was, and this is where connecting this core memory, this early childhood memory to my business transformed everything. I remember being about 4 years old on my grandparents' property. and I was climbing up, a little path in the front of the house. And I witnessed what later I figured out was the conversation, the argument where my parents then decided to split up. And I couldn't really tell what exactly they were talking about, but I was facing them. They were backs to me, facing the back of the house. And I remember my dad trying to like console my mom being very upset. And I just heard these, faint words of like, what are we doing here? Money, we don't have money, just, what's going on? So immediately I latched on to confusion of the family unit, and that confusion being directly related to finances.
Wow.
And then in that moment, I looked over the front of the house. There was my grandmother and my brother and my sister, and like my whole family unit, my whole world, I was witness to in one moment. And then in that same moment was like literally 2 days later where my parents separated.
How old were you?
4.
Oh, wow.
4, like 4.5 kind of thing. And so that made sense to me as one, it was just a cool memory, but also made sense to me because that's why it matters so much to me for everyone to get along, for everyone to be connected. I felt like I had this God's eye view of my entire world, and only I know what is going on in these individual components, and only I know how to kind of like connect everybody after the fact.
That's such a gift.
It's wild. And so now that I'm like, oh, that makes total sense as to why I'm always trying to support the missions of everybody else, trying to like, I want to know what's going on in your world because I feel like Michael's got another thing going on that y'all need to come together on, or just, this kind of like connector aspect, but it's so like childhood trauma driven.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's 4 years old. And
4, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like you were kind of like watching your life.
I was like on a trail up above. I was literally in aerial view of my entire world, and then trying to keep that world together after the fact. And I'm the older brother of 3, so there's that whole dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. That definitely shaped you so much. I feel like for me, in a different way with childhood trauma, that's what's given me so much empathy for other people and such a heart, like watching things or going back, watching things that happened to me when I was little and replaying it. That's why I do think it's so important, as much as people are like, let me just shove all this trauma into a box and under the bed. It's like, no, you actually need to feel it because time doesn't heal all wounds. What heals it is what you deal with. And it's very interesting and introspective when you can really look back at these moments. And I actually like went back to Minnesota and sat with my mom and asked her so many questions because I'm like, I really want to know. I was so young, I think I know. And that's talk about traumatizing.
Yeah, what you remember, what you think was truth compared to now, hey, just I'm sure adult to adult, mom, fill me in.
Yeah. And so I asked her all that stuff and I'm like, wow, to your point, I'm like, this makes sense of why I feel like I'm such an old soul, or why I feel everything so deeply. It's like a blessing and a curse sometimes. It wears you out, but it's also such a gift to feel so deep. And it's because of what I witnessed as a young girl. And it's just, it's so interesting. When you look back and you look, and I have people do this, it's called the ACE test. And it's called Adverse Childhood Experiences. And a couple doctors from San Diego put together this study. It's like one of the largest public health studies people don't know about, but they should. And you look at, there's 10 questions, and it's what happened before the age of 18.
Right, yeah.
And so I do this in stadiums. So I am in with business, predominantly usually businessmen, some women, entrepreneur conferences, and I run them through 10 questions. Did your parents ever separate? Did you ever feel unsafe? Did your mom ever get hit or used on a knife? Were
you ever like a physical abuse or mental abuse victim? Some of these questions, recently became familiar with this.
So I go through, and if you're a 4 or higher, that means that you have significant trauma. And it shows up in different ways. A lot of times it's people's health. It's why they become overweight, all the things. It's why they can't allow a love in. They have relationship trauma, daddy trauma, mama trauma, all the trauma. And I have people stand up in the room that are a 4 or higher, and it is typically 70% of the room dealing with that much trauma. And I sometimes have 10s, and it's like people are just bawling. And one thing that was wild, the last event I was speaking at in Mexico, there was a couple and they're like married. And she was like, I didn't know that he was raped or he was molested when he was little. I didn't know, like, here I am married to the guy and we never have talked about any of this. And so I'm so big on, let's talk about it. Let's understand, like, it's just matters. And what you can do is when you heal, like you have this introspection of what happened to you when you were young, and then you can heal from it. And then now you can give back to humanity in the beautiful way that you are, and you have a better, deeper understanding of oneself.
And use it instead of it, using
Being a
us
victim.
like it tends to do. Yeah.
Victim. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What part of your personal brand do you think requires daily work, and what part only needs intermittent maintenance, we'll say?
Daily work is showing up for myself and then showing up for other people and being honest. And that's daily. It's the best personal brands know themselves and they're willing to share it, I think, And so for me, it's almost like this is like keeping me accountable. My personal brand keeps me accountable. It really does. And, because I want to help people, it's like it's constantly keeping me on that path. And once you start to build it and you have people counting on you, it's like the best accountability. And then even me, I'll be like, yo, it's been a couple days. I haven't been able, here's what I'm dealing with, whatever. So they know I'm human,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like this daily thing. But for me, it goes back to leadership. I got to work out. I got to read. I got to, you know what I mean? I got to put the work in and be that example if I'm ever going to preach anything. It's so important to me.
So then do you think are there parts, so it sounds like there are many contributing little variables to your daily work that makes up your personal brand.
Yeah.
And then are there things that maybe you're like top of mind aware of or can think about, I really just check in on this part of my personal brand.
Yeah.
Annually, biannually, quarterly, whatever.
Yeah. Well, my philosophy, the way I teach personal brand is you are the brand. You have a business, okay, but your business is not your brand. You are a human being, but you may have a business. And what a lot of people do is they'll start building their personal brand, but it's so business dominant that I'm like, I don't know who you are. That's why when I was explaining Tony Robbins, when you were asking me those questions, like I would love to know deeper, not just expert Tony, but I want to see different little sides of him. And so for me, I'm a businesswoman and I'm impact driven and I understand marketing. If you're talking about 50, 100 different things, a stranger is not going to follow you, but you need this overarching theme, this dominating thing that you're about, so that a stranger rolls on your page and they're like, I don't know her, but I'm going to get something from her. I'm going to learn about personal branding with my mindset. I'm going to, she's obviously into transformation. It is not optional. It's essential. Like she's going to help me transform. Follow, right? And so those are the things I check in on. What are my pillars? What am I talking about? Did something change in my life? I'm no longer into something. It no longer feels congruent.
Okay.
And then I'll shift my content pillars based on businesses I'm building, where and how God is talking to me. Some things it's like old news. It no longer is in alignment for me. So I'm just like, okay, let's table that. Those are the things that I look in on probably every quarter.
Have you ever come across something that, in this, daily or intermittent audit and you go, this is no longer a part of my personal brand, or this is no longer something I want to keep alive in my personal brand? And so then has that happened?
Yes.
And two, what do you do to kind of like let go of that? Because if your personal brand is what most people know you for, and you're letting go of something, that's probably got to land differently with people, right?
Yeah. So transformation is the best business strategy. It's the best. And a brand that stays stagnant becomes irrelevant. Well, none of us are going to be stagnant. You're about to be a dad. One of your content pillars is going to change because you're going to change.
Oh, it already has.
Yeah.
I'm already talking about baby strollers.
Which is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was just with a buddy of mine who's huge into business, and I was coaching him, And I'm like, tell me about your 2 daughters. And his whole face changed. His whole energy changed. And I'm like, bro, put that in your brand. Do you know how much like deeper you are right now than your little business tips? He was like, okay. And I'm like, why don't you do that? And he's like, I didn't think any of the guys wanted to ever hear. I'm like, ever hear how to raise daughters? You know? So anyways, back to your original question though. Has things shifted? Yeah. Oh my gosh. When I first started making money coming from no money, I would post, I took a freaking photo shoot with my Bentley. Who does that?
I think a lot of people do, honestly.
Dumb.
Yeah.
No, but dumb.
Yeah.
This Emily could give a shit's less about that.
Why did that Emily need to do it?
Because I needed validation. And I needed, in that area of my life, I wasn't healed from daddy trauma. So that was how I got validation and attention and approval. It's so clear to me now. But what's so beautiful, Chase, is that I can say, yo, look at this. Why did I need to do this? I can die to myself, and I have so much to go, I did this because I needed validation. That's why I did this. That's why I took a photo shoot on Ocean Avenue in my Bentley with my freaking high heels and all the things. Like, who?
Did that give you validation?
In the moment, yeah. Yeah. But that was 7 years ago. So much, we change, we evolve, we grow. And that used to be like a big pillar of mine of like, make money and, you know what I mean? Like, now I'm like, I'm just talking to you. I want to go to Italy and have just a couple sundresses and just sit and drink coffee in the morning.
We were literally just talking before we hit record about just, I'm ready to just like sell everything, move out, and just,
I don't care.
Be home base abroad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. I think I love hearing that. I love hearing that. For me, that's kind of the biggest telltale sign for somebody that you're at a point in your life and your business where you have such a at peace definition of success, and success is the ability to even fathom that. You're at a point in your life to where you can just go, I think I could entertain the idea of doing that. And it's not some outlandish pie in the sky, oh my God, how could this ever happen? Like, you know how to make it happen. But you not only know how to make it happen, but like that equates to success for you in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'm ready to go in. We'll go in on a condo in Italy or something.
Yes, that sounds so good.
Actually, that's a running joke I had with our friends for years. And I'm getting to a point now I really want to pitch everybody of like creating like a friend group LLC, going in on a broad home. And then we all have like because we're all starting to have families and stuff now. And how cool would it be for us all to have a devoted 2 or 3 bedroom spot in like, Paris or something. And then we just Airbnb it out. So like it can serve our needs and also it can make us money.
Genius. Yeah. Sign me up.
And then it's all deduction anytime I travel.
Yep.
I don't want to give away all my tax secrets.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam might be listening.
I'm right there.
So I heard another interview with you, and I have a couple of quotes I pulled from you that I just love, and I would love to kind of remind you of them and have you expand on them.
Okay.
I don't believe in having enemies.
Yeah, I don't.
What do you mean by that? What does that look like? How do you go through life in a successful business and not create or not keep or not even entertain enemies?
Yeah, when someone pisses us off or betrays us or hurts us, a lot of times they go into the enemy category. And when we hate, there's an oppression attached to that. And it actually does more damage for me than it does for them. And so whether it's my father we're talking about or a business partner who stole money from me or whatever.
Does that happen?
Yes. I don't want to hate another human being. I don't want to have an enemy. I want to have peace. At the end of the day, like, what good is it for keeping an enemy? It doesn't mean that I have to be friends with them. It doesn't mean that I would ever spend time with them, but it just means like there's peace and love there. And if anything were to ever happen, I don't want there to be any hate or animosity. And life is too short. And I just want to love and forgive. And even if it's just for me, right? Yeah. It's just there's a higher frequency to that. And I don't want any drama in my life. And it doesn't mean there's not problems, Problems are just lessons that I need to learn. And, I just look at problems differently as well. So
would you be willing to share the dollar amount that was stolen from you by a business partner? Was it a business partner or someone? Someone took money from you. How much was it?
Yeah, it was a little over $1 million.
And you have no animosity towards this person?
No. I mean, I forgave this person.
Take us to the moment you realize there's $1 million missing in my bank account, and I know
Plus
who
a bunch
it is.
of headaches.
Plus a bunch of headaches. So what was that emotion? What was it like the day of? And then how did you get to forgiveness?
Oh, I had like a spaz attack, trauma, couldn't breathe, anger. I mean, every human emotion. And I want to make that abundantly clear. I'm not over here like, peace, peace, love, rock. No, I was tripping. Okay, don't make me mad, tripping. And I went through every level of emotion of why did you lie? Like anger, sadness, all of it, and that did linger for, a good amount of months as we were like figuring things out.
Did that cripple the business, or was it? It's still a large amount of money.
It crippled me, and then I crippled the business because
it crippled you, and then you crippled the business.
Yeah, because I'm the leader, and so I wasn't able to focus. When you have drama steals your strength so much. When you have any bit of it, it takes your attention from what you have to what you don't have. Right. And so where attention goes, energy flows. And my attention was then now on what I didn't have. It was, how am I going to kill this mother trucker? No, I'm just kidding. It was all the things. It was conversations about it. It was drama. And I don't do drama very well. I'm made for impact. I'm not made for these tiny, this one was a big problem. And so for me, I had to really realize, after this person was deeply sorry, but living in their own little denial. It was like it was a whole thing.
But sorry, I stole $1 million.
Yeah. And
cool story, bro.
Right. And there was every excuse under the sun. And I just realized, like, Emily, you have the skills to make it back and then some. You have God gave you skills. Like I learned, and that's the thing, when you learn how to create and when you learn, like you could put me in the middle of the street and I could find my way. Like, dude, I'm from the farm. I can, I can chop wood and carry water all day long. I'm from the freaking tundra. Like I can milk cows. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I started to look at this. I'm like, am I going to waste another, 6 months on this and then hating this person that I want to get everybody else to hate them too? Like that's what people do. They recruit people to do. And I'm like, no, this person has something mentally wrong with them. They need help. That's really what this boils down to. And so I took that approach of you need some serious help, sent them one of the best therapists that I know.
You sent the person who stole $1 million from you and your business help? You sent them a therapist?
Yeah. I said, please get help.
Unreal.
Yeah. Wow. And that's just going to like do so much for you and
you guys hearing this?
Yeah. But that took a lot, and that didn't happen in the first 24 hours. It took me a few months. And then, I just realized, it's not happening to me. It's happening for me. And let's move on.
How quick or how long did it take you financially or in the business to bounce back from that $1 million loss?
I built a different thing. So that's what I do. I just find a different door, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it actually caused me to step it up a little bit because I got kind of comfortable.
Would you say you're grateful for that person taking $1 million?
I actually kind of, yes. Wow, I feel like we're in therapy. I am grateful.
This is a billable hour.
Yeah, yeah. No, I truly am grateful. I really am.
I'm with you. I've never had someone steal $1 million from me, but I was sharing with you earlier, or actually, I don't know if I shared this. Ever Forward is the mantra of my late father. He passed away in 2005. And this is how I kind of continue on his legacy. And now it's kind of turned into my own thing, my own meaning.
So cool.
And so I am at a point where I'm grateful for my dad dying. I'm grateful for knowing that loss. And I'm grateful for having such an incredible father to instill something in me so meaningful in the first 19 years of my life
Wow.
that it has now lived on another 19 years with him not around.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So you had a close relationship to him?
Extremely close.
Really?
Yeah. Losing him wrecked my life for 12, 13 years. Yeah. Yeah. But I would not be here doing Everforward Radio. I would not be here without that loss.
Right. And when he passed, like, did it really cause you to go so deep
Oh,
within?
Yeah, I had, at that point when he passed, I was already active duty for about a year or so. So I was, thousands of miles away in the middle of my Army career and just, literally hit the ground running, going back to duty after he passed. I got emergency leave to come home, came back after a week of like the funeral and stuff. And then it was just, back to Army chase for the next 4 years.
Was it hard to heal? And then when you were serving the country, like...
During service, no, because I was so unable to process those emotions, and I was so busy and so focused, and like literally working on like the craziest missions and things, and like we were a nation at war, and so I was just. I couldn't be distracted. I didn't have the luxury of distraction because if I was, then that could be life or death of me or other people or, loss of career or just like extreme severe penalties for not being here and not stuffing everything else down. So that worked for me for years until it didn't. And then it began to rear its ugly head in the form of, panic attacks, PTSD, even physical health problems, and just unbeknownst to me, just why is my life falling apart? And then I was like, oh yeah, I haven't addressed the biggest traumatic event of my life in 13 years. Yeah.
Wow. So powerful. What tools did you use to start to heal?
It started off pretty simple. I literally just began to look up self-help books.
Yeah.
I began to just, I guess you could call it journaling, just brain dumping.
Yeah.
I just got a notebook and began to just write out thoughts, and that next thing I'm just, streams of consciousness. Like, where did this come from? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
And then that kind of snowballed into self-help, podcasts and going to conferences and getting back into regular therapy, mental health help, but also really just opening up to people. I began to really share with my close family members and close friends what I was going through, letting that kind of floodgate open with my brother and my mother and my then girlfriend, now wife, and kind of just letting the right people in to let me know that this is, I'm getting goosebumps, to like, this is a safe time and space to like go about that.
Oh, so beautiful.
And then, years later after kind of doing that, I say not easy, but simple work, very minimal time, minimal resources, to years later going into very intensive therapy modalities, psychedelic assisted therapy, just like the deep end kind of stuff, but only after I got to a level of readiness for that.
Entry level, and then you went deep.
The deep end. Yeah. Couple more questions here as we kind of get towards the end. You're so easy to talk to. You're such an open book. I appreciate that.
Always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
People are not numbers, but it is a numbers game. Another Emily Ford original.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this was a sales quote in business, and I have taught sales teams for over a decade, and people get really hung up on this person said no, and whether we're trying to get clients to rent out the podcast studio or get a brand deal or sell something or whatever, it's like people get so hung up. And so what I always share with my teams and people, it's like, listen, this is a human heart in front of you. They matter, okay? But their no, it's not a reflection of you. Just keep moving forward. Go for no. And just so you know, it's how many times are you at bat? Whether someone wants to be a speaker and they're trying to get gigs, and like I did a call on the way here with someone wanting to be a speaker, and I said, well, how many times have you pitched yourself? How many times on LinkedIn have you reached out to corporations? How many times have you tried to get, with an agent or, just move forward? How many times have you actually recorded yourself speak? So it's like, again, it's a numbers game. It's the reps. It's the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. It's the Steph Curry practicing the free throw and no one's there. Like, you have to put in the reps. And in my first business, the reason I was able to grow so fast is because I just condensed time frames. And I was able to make the main thing, which was I need people to do business with. And I could sit here and I could draw this out over 10 years and go so slow, or I could go really fast and just go through the numbers. I needed more times at bat. And that's with any business I do or any, thing I'm trying to accomplish. It's like, you need more reps. Are you willing to do it in the dark? Are you willing to do it when no one's watching? And that's why with social, I love social media, but sometimes I'm like, you don't see how many times and how many, like I gave a presentation in a janitor's closet inspiring, 2 women, it's just like practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's, I love hearing that from people. This I can kind of tell very quickly, for lack of a better term, I'll say who has it and who doesn't, or like the work ethic you have behind what you're trying to do. Is if someone asks me, Chase, how do you do this versus here's what I have tried.
Yeah.
Where can I go from here? If you're leading with looking for an answer, leading with looking for a handout, leading with just an expectation that I can just ask someone who is a step or 1,000 steps ahead of me and that I'm just going to get the answer versus sharing with them, letting them know, I'm not saying give me your whole life history, but here's what I've done that I think is getting me closer to where I want to be, but not quite there.
Yeah.
I need to know what you've done and what you've tried,
right,
not what handout you're looking for.
Exactly. And so many people come with this energy of what can I, and I'm like, so many times when I get pitches in the DMs for business things or whatever, I'm like, if I can help you rephrase this, you're such a needy energy attitude, it's like having the mindset of what can I do for you instead of what can I get from you. It's just,
absolutely,
it's like this little micro tweak, but it's everything, and it's that mindset. But we live in this instant gratification, microwave society. I need it now kind of thing. And it's like, you have to play the long game.
The infinite game.
Yeah, exactly.
If I were to ask you, how successful have you been in your professional life? How would you answer that question?
I've been decent, but I hardly touched the surface of what I'm going to do. And I know that.
How do you measure your form of success?
My growth rate personally and my capabilities as a human being, not by money, but by my capacity. And so I know that God gave me this overabundant level of capacity to grow and to experience myself and my heart and what I can do for other people. And I am chasing my potential. I really am. And so I do believe, I say this all the time, the minute you think you've arrived, you have truly begun your decline. And I just know that I've just scratched the surface because I just keep trying to get better. Like I keep trying to understand more. I keep trying to hear people more. I keep trying to be more creative. Like I'm exploring it's just always stay curious and stay humble. And I've only scratched the surface. And I just know that. And I just want to do more so I can give more. Yeah. And I
love that answer.
Getting the party started.
Yeah. So we kind of touched on it throughout the conversation. Personal branding, that's your area of specialty. That's really what you do and, your core offer. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when we say personal brand, how do you define that? And where do you think people are going wrong in their personal brand the most?
Every single one of us has a personal brand, and it's what people perceive of us. It's what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And we have this ability with social media, with having a digital footprint to, yes, control what people see of us and perceive of us. So whatever we put out is what people perceive. Whatever we don't put out is what they just don't know about you. And so building your personal brand, whether you're a doctor or if you're someone that's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I don't really know what I want to do. It's so important because I don't know in your life when something new is going to come out of you, a new business is going to be birthed, or a new thing's going to happen. And your personal brand is like your built-in network that's free, that you can use to monetize or B, impact, or even C, just learn how to self-express. It's very healthy for all of us to self-express and to use our personal brand as like that art form, that outlet. I think there's a stat that says 74% of people nowadays, they look at your personal brand before they look to you, even if you're a doctor, if you're a realtor. So this is huge. I don't know why people are sleeping on personal brand. Now, a lot of people come to me. I just was on a call yesterday with a huge fitness chick, and she's like, I built my whole identity on helping women with weight loss. And she's like, my whole feed is all about weight loss. And she goes, I'm so sick of talking about weight loss. I thought she was gonna cry. And I'm like, well, you built your whole personal brand on your business. Your business is an extension of you. What you do for them is one of your offers, but it's not who you are. It's okay, calm down. We're going to do a rebrand. We're now going to brand you. You're the brand. And we're going to implement other pillars that you are deeply passionate about that make no money, but people are going to gravitate towards you because they're going to know you. It's like, how do you build trust?
I want to go deeper right there, please. The making money part, I think, is where a lot of people get hung up about the personal brand aspect.
Yeah.
If I introduce this part of my personal life as my personal brand, but I'm not pitching, I'm not having a hard call to action, it doesn't make me money, doesn't move the needle, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, or how should we kind of flip the script on that?
I understand what they are thinking. I totally get it. But here's the deal. Nobody wants a pitch fest and nobody wants to be sold. People want to trust you before they buy from you. So how do people trust you? By spending time with you and by learning from you.
Yeah.
So if people spend time with you, whether it's on a podcast and they're spending over 7 hours with you and they're learning deeper who you really are, when they see your day-to-day and not just you trying to sell them your offer, they ultimately trust you more. When I know, oh, you're not perfect, you've made mistakes, you actually shared with me some very intimate details about your father and your life, I ultimately now I have a deeper trust with you, Chase, than I did even before. And so when it comes to personal branding, we need to show these other things because it builds trust. And then it makes me lean in every 5 posts or whatever, when you do have something to sell, I'm like, oh, now I'll listen to you. It's also wildly attractive because you could be into me. I love style. Even if I was at home by myself all day, I'll sit in the corner and I'll put together an outfit.
You guys got to check the video today. Yeah. She's got great style.
And I love helping women on a budget. Like, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Like, you can piece things together. And I love helping people sharpen up their look on a budget. It's near and dear to my heart because I started with nothing. I had to go to the consignment shop to buy like a blazer. I didn't have money. And so I love teaching women this. And here, I want to say this, you're most powerfully positioned to serve who you once were. So everything I do is typically who I was 5-10 years ago. That's why it burdens my heart. It's why I want to do it. It's why I want to share. And so when it comes to personal brand, if you can mix up your passions, your interests, your skills, and add value, the money is going to take care of itself. But if you are a sales pitch to me, if you are an infomercial to me 24/7, I will tune you out. I will not consume your content. Nobody wants to be sold. No. So that's why it's so important. And I think the game got a little blurred because we, moved super fast. We moved from the information age to the relation age, and people somehow are still in the information age, even though we're in the relation age.
I've never heard of this. What do you mean by this?
So economically and marketing wise, the world has shifted. It used to be information. Tell me, how much, what is in this product? And I want to know every freaking ingredient, blah, blah, blah. Information. Buy now, get these offers. You know what I mean? Like, blah, 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 blah. It was just like infomercials, information.
Yeah.
And now people want relation. I want to know, who are you? I want to connect to you. Millennials and younger, they want to know if I'm going to this restaurant tonight, or if I'm going to buy this new sweatshirt or this swag or this hoodie set, who owns the company?
Who do I like and who do I trust that has been here before, worn this before?
What's their beliefs? Are they giving a percentage back to charity? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to buy, this hoodie if I'm not into it, And so it's like, those who dare to actually stand for something, they're going to see the growth in the build of their personal brands for their companies. Those that play Switzerland all the time and they're like so vanilla are so boring. Nobody cares. People want to know, where do you stand? And I'm not talking politics wise. I'm just talking, what's your values? Who are you? And when you dare to show the real you and what you're about, you will attract the right people that eventually, if you have something to offer, are going to want to buy from you. And that's how you stand out in a noisy market.
That was an incredible response.
Thank you.
So well said. Thank you. A lot of great value there. As we kind of get towards the end here, before I get to my last question, I want to get to, I know faith has a big part in your life and in your business. And I don't know if you remember this, but when we first met, the last time we met, we were all in this room here in the studio. You had wrapped up with the homie Michael Chernow and kind of gotten into talking about faith and, and spirituality and religion and connection to God. And I don't know if you remember this exactly, and I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, but I believe Michael, I walked in and Michael asked, he was talking to me, Chase, what's your relationship with God? How do you view God? Something along those parameters. And I believe I said something like this. I think you are God. I think I'm God. I think God is everything, and we were all connected to him, her, them. We're all connected to each other, as we are all equally connected to a source, a higher power, ultimate level of consciousness. And I believe that connection and that highest level of consciousness is nothing more than love.
Yeah.
And so that was and I haven't been asked that question in like a long time. I had no preconditioned response.
That
just kind of came to me.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who grew up Southern Baptist, a Catholic dad, a very religious household, private Christian school from middle school, high school. So I grew up in the church. I read the Bible twice.
What?
Yeah. And so personally speaking, that's kind of like my history with religion and connection to God. And where I'm at now is this kind of more spiritual version. I absolutely feel like there is a higher power. God is, like I said, everywhere and everything, and that ultimately is love. How does that land on you?
Yeah. Well, I totally respect your opinion and how you feel. And God is love. And we are called to love. And I can feel love radiate from your heart. And it's so interesting to me because like you read the Bible twice and I'm trying to learn the Bible right now, being a girl that didn't read the Bible. I didn't grow up with people like pouring on me like that. We went to a Catholic church a few times and I was scared out of my mind. I was like, get me out of here, it's dark. And then they made me go into the confession booth and I was like, what's this guy gonna do to me? Literally, like I was a rebel kid, in a lot of ways, but I always had a connection to the light. And I always felt this like warmth covering over me, like why my mom would get beat up. And we had to make up so many stories of like she'd have broken ribs and all this stuff. And I didn't know if she was going to stay alive at some points in my life, in my early childhood. But I always had this warmth, this connection, and I didn't know what it was or who it was.
Like a connection of like everything's going to be all right, or
I just would have like I would talk, and now I realize I was praying, using my imagination, and then as I grew up and became an adult, I just realized I need God. I need something bigger than myself. And for me, I tried different churches and things like that, but when I went to LA and I went to this place called Mosaic, I was like, wow, I don't feel like judged in here. It feels like everyone's just super
Is that like
human.
a non-denominational
Yeah, it's
Christian
Erwin
based?
McManus's church. He's freaking brilliant. He's one of the best communicators I've ever heard. He's such an artist. He's just amazing. And, you know, people connect to people and messages in different ways. And I really connected to him. And I was at my really lowest of lows relationship wise. It was when I came out to LA and I was trying to find myself. And that's really where I had an encounter. And for me, it's just a relationship with the Lord. For me, it's Jesus. He's my Lord and Savior. And so I've just been on this process to learn about him. And the reason I'm super into Jesus is because I just feel like he, to your point, loved all people. And, you know, I sometimes feel like in the religion world, there's all these rules and shame. And it's just, so I was so confused, Chase. I was like, you know, I
raising my hand.
Yeah, I
same,
have friends that are like Mormon and there's this and there's that. And like my mom could only marry my dad because he was Catholic and she was in love with another man. And like, granted, she got me out of the deal, but it was a horrible, you know, just so much like weird stuff, right? And so I realized, wow, it's me. Like I do have a dad because I felt abandoned my whole life. You know, I had another brother who passed away before I was born and under my dad's watch. And so when I was born, I was a complete accident and they didn't know if I was going to be a girl or a boy. I came out obviously a girl. And my dad then said, you know, like, I'm done. He left my mom in the hospital.
Because she had a girl?
Yeah. And so
he left her in the hospital. Like, you're born. He's like, I'm out.
So what my mom did wrong was when I was growing up, she like told me this because she like obviously was mad at my dad, hated my dad. He didn't pay child support. And so who tells your kid this? But I grew up literally like with this in my head. Like, you're not enough. You're a girl. You're this, you're that.
Probably like this. If I was a boy, my dad would still be here.
Yeah. And just like, I just grew up with, I was raising myself most of the time, you know? And so when I had an encounter with God, I finally felt like I had a father, a heavenly father that wouldn't abandon me. And that to me has brought me peace beyond all understanding. And so I just believe God is love. God, I'm forgiven. I used to walk in a lot of shame for things I didn't do to myself, but were done to me, you know? And so I just love the values that come from walking real Christianity. And, you know, it's just like anything in life. A lot of people make good things look bad because we're human, you know, but that's my belief system. And yeah, I'm just growing every day closer to God. And to be quite honest, like when people ask me about like speaking and stuff, I'm like, I just use all my power through God and I channel it. And then as
a conduit.
Yeah. And that's really been my secret sauce. And, you know, that's the principles I'm basing my life on.
That's beautiful. And it kind of reminds me of, my dad was in the Army as well. When he got out, eventually wound up kind of opening up his own businesses with my stepmom. We were in the coffee house business. We had 4 or 5 coffee houses and a steakhouse back in Virginia. And he had a mission statement printed out, framed in every location. And I forget, you know, it was blah, 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 you know, core values, customer service, all this stuff. And at the end, he signed off, Almighty God owns the place. We just run it.
Whoa.
So he was another kind of just like conduit. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, there's something to that.
There is something to that. So beautiful.
Well, my last question, speaking of Pops, you know, his mantra that he brought home from, you know, this was a creed. His first unit in the military was ever forward. That's where he picked it up. And so it was something that he lived, ate, breathed, modeled our entire life. And so this is why I ask everybody now, I'm curious to get your interpretation. Ever forward, those 2 words. What does that mean to you? If I were to say, Emily, how do you live a life ever forward? How would you answer that?
Only forwards, not backwards. Focus on what's in front of you, not behind you. And that's how you're going to move faster in the world. That's how you're going to have fulfillment, because progress equals happiness.
Ooh.
I love ever forward.
I love progress equals happiness. There's never a right or wrong answer, so thank you.
Yeah.